Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Tom Johnson begins now.
Good evening, everyone. There are concerns tonight. Restrictions have been placed on hiring new staff at Tasmania's hospitals in an attempt to stay on budget. The government is adamant there's no hiring freeze in place, but health unions say frontline job vacancies are not being filled.
A now familiar sight outside Tasmania's major hospitals. Nurses today continuing their year-long battle for better pay and conditions.
Today, just at the Launceston General Hospital, that one ward worked 5 nurses down on a particular shift, making it incredibly unsafe, not only for the nursing staff working within that ward, but importantly for the patients.
But inside the hospital, staff have raised concerns recruitment is being restricted. Unions saying there's been delays in hiring in what they believe is an attempt to stay on budget.
We know that there are positions that are vacant, that are funded positions, that are taking too long to be filled, and we understand that that is due to a vacancy and job filling freeze.
But the Premier is adamant there is no hiring freeze in place.
My government has employed 800 more health professionals. We are currently advertising for more health professionals in our health system. That demonstrates clearly we haven't put a freeze on it.
The state's hospitals are now seeing more patients than ever before, but an email from the Health Department to the union states the majority of cost centres were capped at their full-time position employee numbers. Opposition parties saying it all comes down to funding.
That is where we end up in situations like we have now, where departments are being instructed that they have to make changes and cut back to come in under budget. The budget needs to be realistic.
The Premier refused to reveal just how much the health spend would be when the state budget is handed down next week. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
A Tasmanian river has transformed into a high-stakes training zone for Queensland's emergency services. Hundreds of tonnes of water released to mimic a real-life flood disaster.
This floating mannequin mimicking a real-life situation for these crews from the Queensland Emergency Services. They're undertaking training here on the River Derwent in preparation for severe weather events.
It's also good to come to different venues because obviously when we operate in real world, we don't know the area that we're working in. Hydro
Tasmania assisting the operation by releasing huge amounts of water, at times 100 tonnes per second from Lake Meadowbank. This creates rapids to train on, helping this crew test and strengthen its skills in preparation for situations involving swift or flood waters.
Tasmania provides us with a few different operational challenges, which again just increases the effectiveness of the course.
Here you can see what they're dealing with, rescuing mannequins from the rapids and quickly manoeuvring boats out of harm's way.
Patient pickups, holding and ferrying, these are all the things they're going to use operationally.
Many of this team played a major role during the floods which devastated Townsville in February. Here today they're using the same equipment as then.
Up in Townsville, we did actually deploy several motorised craft, which were pivotal in the rescue of several people.
But although they're dealing with rising rapids and small spaces, there is one challenge that stands out.
The cold definitely keeps you a bit closer than it does up in Queensland, but no, it's fantastic.
While the water may be cold here with the air temperature sitting at around 7 degrees, the officers say the challenging conditions help to ensure they're mentally and physically prepared for any situation.
So that is invaluable for us.
And with the crews always prepared for a last-minute call-out, this training on our river could one day help us here in Tasmania. Louise Hedger, 7 Tasmania News.
An organisation dedicated to giving a voice to children with a hearing impairment could soon be opening its doors in Tasmania. The Federal Labor Party today committed to spending $2.5 million, if elected, to build a new Shepherd Centre in the state, offering early intervention programs for children born with a hearing impairment. Currently, Tasmanian families using the service must access it remotely online or travel to the mainland for help.
Every state has a local specialist service with the exception of Tasmania. And I think it's a tragedy that families in Tasmania have not been able to access that local service.
I think it's amazing. It'll be great to have those face-to-face opportunities, and I think more importantly it'll be amazing that they can reach out to more families within Tasmania and make those difference to more Tasmanian children.
If the centre does open, it will have the capacity to help around 250 children across the state each year. They keep people off the streets and offer second chances to those who face uncertainty. But Launceston's crisis accommodation services say they're turning dozens of people away each month, and a warning change needs to come soon.
For 35 years, Launceston's Dudley House has served those with nowhere to go. It's a broad church housing those disadvantaged by mental illness, social isolation or substance abuse. But the challenges are becoming tougher.
I think in the last 2 months I've turned away about 30 people because we've been full since February and we've never been full consistently for such a long period of time and had so many people knocking on the door.
The home was started by Jamie Crawford's family and doesn't receive government or church support. Inside there are 31 beds. One of them belongs to Eddie Marshall. He had been in a share house with his brother until he became physically violent.
I couldn't live with him anymore. I needed somewhere that was, safe for both my physical and mental health, and this was the best option.
We need more beds around for these guys to get them off the street, because I can house a certain number, but I can't house everybody.
City Mission runs a Rana house for adult men seeking crisis accommodation. It's also been struggling with numbers for nearly 2 years.
At the moment, we could turn away between 50 to 80 people in a month.
His solution is a familiar one: more beds across the board.
I would extend the amount of beds that are available for the first step in the housing system, which is the emergency accommodation step.
9 months after moving into Dudley House, Eddie Marshall considers himself lucky.
Because there's plenty of people lined up, willing, ready to get in. Yeah, it's not an easy place to get into.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, they might have been a long way from home, but even our Antarctic explorers have to vote in the federal election. 10 registered voters at Mawson Station filled out their ballot papers today, with their votes passed on to the Electoral Commission in Hobart via telephone. Votes were then passed on to their relevant electorates all around the country. There were of course no sausage sizzles at the Mawson polling booth, but it goes to show how far the AEC goes to make sure everyone can have their say. A Tasmanian dairy is making big inroads to milk the international thirst for the state's local produce. Yogurts from Westhaven Dairy will soon be on the shelves in Hong Kong after a successful trade mission to the Asian city earlier this week.
We've signed a deal with City Supermarket in Hong Kong to supply those products, which will be in store probably hopefully in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, and then we can grow from there.
The company now has its sights set on Singapore and hopes to put on more staff to handle the demand.
Lauderdale coach and Palmer United candidate Darren Winter is preparing for what could be his last game in charge this Saturday, providing federal election results go his way. And the Bombers will be looking to bounce back from their first loss of the season up against an in-form Launceston. Vying for the seat of Franklin in Saturday's election, Winter's future at the footy club he helped build remains up in the air until the polling results are finalised.
I suppose if anybody from outside the Lauderdale Football Club that don't want to see me coach anymore, they probably should vote for me, I reckon. Coming off an 11-point loss to Glenorchy, their first of the season, the Bombers coach is adamant his boys will bounce back as they prepare to make the trip north to take on the Blues at Windsor Park. Probably got the best midfield in the competition, so we certainly won't go in there taking them lightly. They'll be a much better team than they were in the first round.
I think labelling our midfield the best is just Darren being Darren. I think North Lonnie got a few runs on the board, so we'll just get back to what we know, get our hands dirty, get to work inside and try and lock it in our forward half after that.
With 3 wins from their past 4 matches and fresh from the round 7 bye, Launceston welcome back gun midfielder Jay Blackberry from injury for his first senior game of the season, and the Blues coach is expecting the visitors on ballers to come out with a big point to prove.
I think that's where it's won and lost. There's no doubt that their strength is around the footy, and I think our strength is around the ball as well. Both sides have got some big, strong midfielders and strong ruckmen.
The opening bounce is at 2 p.m. To basketball, and the Hobart Huskies men's side will look to continue its climb from the bottom of the NBL1 ladder at home this weekend, while the women are still searching for answers after their season stalled dramatically. The side's season was looking grim, but back-to-back wins over Ringwood and Dandenong has seen renewed confidence in the Huskies camp.
I think they're just getting better, and starting to embrace what we're trying to do, and that's bringing those wins.
The side takes on the Albury-Wodonga Bandits at home this Saturday night and will be looking for another big performance from new import Tad Duffelmeyer, with a win set to see them back in the mix on the league ladder.
We're coming up against better teams now, like Dandenong, like Albury, so these are even more special, I suppose, in a way, if you can get a win against these teams.
The Huskies women's side will be out to shake off their recent funk as they chase a return to their early season form, but that'll be easier said than done against one of the competition's best sides in the Bandits.
Close, but we're not there yet. I think now's the time that the team needs to start to gel and come together. We've had 3 or 4 sessions now as a whole group, which is going to be beneficial long term, and this weekend's game for us is to get back on the winning track.
To netball, and it's set to be a battle of the heavyweights in Hobart this Sunday when the Hawks take on Arrows, and the girls from the north will be out for redemption following a 17-goal loss to their southern rivals in round 5.
Still fresh in our minds, and it was really disappointing, and we were really disappointed with ourselves, so yeah, it'll be really good. We're really excited for Sunday.
It doesn't matter if you won by a goal or won by 20 goals. I think that each game, each time we come up against them, it's certainly a tough match and something we certainly don't take lightly.
In the weekend's other matchups, Kingston takes on competition cellar dwellers Devon, with Karana hoping to dish Cavaliers their first loss of the season.
Good evening. Now, first up, a quick reminder that tomorrow is Walk Safely to School Day, as we encourage all primary school students to walk at least some distance on the way to school tomorrow, because regular walking is a great exercise and easy to get into a routine. And if you're travelling on the roads, please be mindful of that. Now, around the state today, Hobart, Campania and Friendly Beaches had our high of 18, Launceston and Devonport 15 today, and Burnie 17 degrees. The low was -2 at Lyowini, St Helens had 17, Smithton and the Islands 16 degrees, Low Head, Ouse and Strawn 15, Lyowini 14 today. Now, some low-level cover over the north and west of the state today. Most of the east and southeast of Tasmania free of cloud. More low cloud is over Victoria and the Tasman Sea and being brought onshore over New South Wales and Queensland. A large frontal band is passing southern WA. The high over the southeast moves over the Tasman tomorrow, while the cold front moving over the Bight develops a low centre near South Australia. The winds west to northwesterly, mostly 10 to 20 knots, reaching 30 knots over the south, swells at 3 metres in southern waters. A strong wind warning has been issued for waters between Tasman Island and Low Rocky Point, and we also have a frost warning. That's for the upper Derwent Valley. And for those walking to school tomorrow, I guarantee a fine day, or you can ask for your money back. Hobart, mostly sunny and 18, 17 for Huonville, 19 the top for Campania. Launceston, fine, mostly sunny, 17 the high, 16 for Devonport. Georgetown, morning drizzle, might not happen, 16 the top. 16 also for Burnie and partly cloudy, drizzle easing from Strawn, 15 the high and 16 for Wynyard, while for St Helens tomorrow, a top of 18 degrees and sunny, 18 also for Swansea. Port Arthur, mostly sunny and 17. On Saturday, fine after morning fog patches, just a light shower over the southwest and far south. Conditions on Sunday becoming fine for the state after an early drizzle patch over the lower east and south. And on Monday, rain developing over the northwest firstly, and then across the state during the day. Mostly sunny in Perth, along with Adelaide, Melbourne and Sydney tomorrow. A shower or two for Brisbane, a top of 24 degrees, and a possible storm for Darwin. Partly cloudy at the moment, 12 in Hobart, Launceston 12 as well, and Devonport 13 degrees. So a nice morning tomorrow for walking to school. But back in the old days, Tom, I used to walk to school every day. 10 kilometres in, 10 kilometres back. I'd carry my younger sister and 2 brothers on the back and all their school cases. We call them school ports. But I wasn't much good when I got to school. I even failed recess.
I thought you were some kind of mentor. I should be so lucky. Well, that's all your news for now. I'll be back later on with updates. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.